Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a no-sew. It's not no-sew anything. It's not no-sew anything. By the way, the fabric I'm going to be using for this no-sew skirt, the fabric I'm going to be using for this skirt, my name is Silem. I can see you look at me. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button so you're notified whenever I post a new video. My name is Silem. Today I'm going to show you guys how to cut and sew a simple straight skirt, and I'm going to be using a thick scuba fabric for this project. I'm going to show you guys how I cut the fabric and how I sew this skirt. So if you want to see how I do that and probably sew along with me, then please keep watching. So I'm using 2 yards for this skirt. The first thing I did was to fold the fabric, and then I just drew a 0 line, and now I'm marking from the top, or from that line I'm marking 8 inches downwards, which is her hip line, or which is the hip line generally. Some people actually use 9 inches from the waist as the hip line, but I like to use 8 inches. And now I'm taking her waist measurement and I divided that by 4. I simply folded my tape into 4, and then I'm doing the same thing for the hip line. So I took her hip measurements and divided it by 4, and now I added just 1 inch allowance because this fabric is stretchy, so you don't even need to add any allowance at all. So having gotten that, I'm simply just tracing that line, and now I'm cutting through. Now because I want this to be a pencil skirt, after the hip line towards the down part of the skirt, I removed 3 inches from the hip measurement to give that pencil shape. So that's why I marked at the down part. And now after cutting this is the outline I have for the front part of the skirt. Now I just folded the fabric again, and then I'm placing the front part on top of the fabric, but I'm leaving space at the fold side, which is going to serve as my zipper allowance. Now this will help me to cut the back bit. Now since I've already gotten the shape of the skirt, I'm just following that line and then cutting the back to be the same with the front by the sides. So the only difference in the front part of your skirt and the back part of your skirt is this zip allowance that I'm just trimming open now. Now when I trim this, I like to make the zipper allowance part, which is where the hip is, which is along that hip line, I like to make it come out a bit, just so that it gives that shape of the back. Like, you know, your back is not straight, you know, so I like to cut that hip line a bit outward so it imitates the shape of the bum. So now I simply cut the band, and the band was 60 inches by 4.5 inches, and now I'm just sewing down the back at that zip allowance part. And now why I tacked that point is because I'm going to attach my zipper there, or that's where my zipper is going to end, and now I'm just sewing down along that line. There's really no static measurement for this. You can just leave about 1/2 inch allowance. Now having done that, this is what I have. So this is the back bit. So that part I cut open, I just sewed it down all the way. And now I'm going to mark my dots. So from that part I joined, which is the middle, the back, the center, the back middle, I'm just marking 4 inches to the left and 4 inches to the right, and that is where I'm going to put my dots. And then the length of the dot, I want it to be 5 inches long, and that's what I'm marking now. Just drawing a straight line so that when I'm sewing the dots, I know where it starts and ends. And I'm folding the fabric at that line, and then I'm just sewing the dots. It starts with about 1/2 inch allowance, and then when it gets to that point where it ends, it gets smaller. So you're simply going to make your sewing tapered. It starts with 1/2 inch and then it ends. You literally have to go out where you have the end of the dart, which is where the chalk is marked. So I'm starting with 1/2 inch and then I'm just sewing it like a diagonal line or a slanted line all the way, and then when I get to that point where I marked, which is the end, I'm just tacking it there. And this is what you have. This is going to give that tight waist, and just basically gives it the fitting it needs. Now I'm sewing right sides facing. I'm facing the front part with the back part, and now I'm just sewing that down. Now if this material was not stretchy, I would have marked her actual measurements and followed her measurements to sew this, but I don't need to do that because I didn't add so much allowance when I was cutting this one because it's a stretchy fabric. So I'm just eyeballing it. Basically I'm just sewing it at leaving about 2 inches allowance, knowing that I added just 1 inch to her actual measurement. So like I said, if this was not a stretchy fabric, after putting the darts for the back, before you join the front with the back, you have to go and then mark her actual measurements, or your actual measurements, depending on who you're making it for, before you sew that down. Now having done that, this is what it looks like. And now this is what the back looks like as well. Now this is the band I cut out. It's about 4.5 inches wide, and the length is I think it's about 16 inches long. Oh, it's actually 40 inches long, pardon me. It's 40 inches long and then 4.5 inches wide. So I just folded that and ironed it flat, and now I'm opening that zip allowance that I had sewn earlier, just the top part of it, and then I'm placing the band right sides facing as well. Now where the fold is facing down, so I'm sewing the part that is not folded. I'm sewing the part of the band that is not folded to the top of the skirt or to the waist of the skirt. So I'm just leaving about 1/2 inch allowance in this sewing. Now this is what is going to give that nice looking band at the top of your skirt. And then once I get that done, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to cut out some part of the band. I don't want to cut it at where the skirt starts, simply because I just didn't want to cut it at that point. Now I'm pushing the allowance I just got from sewing the band to the skirt. I'm pushing that allowance to the skirt part, not where the band is, to where the skirt is, and then I'm sewing it down on the waist of the skirt, not on the band. So the allowance is on the waist of the skirt and I'm sewing it down. Now in doing that, I'm trying to make sure that it's flat, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make sure that it's flat. That's why I'm trying to spread out the band and the skirt, just to make it smooth and make it straight, and so there's no fold or anything anywhere. So that's what I'm trying to do. Having done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our zipper. This is not a very detailed tutorial on how to make a zipper, but if you want me to show you guys how to install a zipper or how to fix a zipper, like a detailed video, then I'll be happy to do that. Just let me know in the comment section. But basically what you would do is take the front part of your zipper, or the right side of your zipper, and face it to the right side of your skirts. But in this case, you're starting with the left part of the back. Does that make sense? The left part of the back. And once you sew that down, I like to turn my fabric right side out, and then at the back part, or at the wrong side, I'm just taking the right side of my zipper, which is the side I haven't sewn the zip on, and then I'm doing the same thing, just from the bottom to the top this time. When I was sewing the zipper at the left side of the back, I started from the top to the bottom, but now I'm starting from the bottom to the top. But before I do that, I like to make sure that the line of my band actually aligns, right? I like to make sure that the line of my band actually aligns. So I like to sew the band part first, band part of the zip, and then when I check and I'm sure that it aligns, then I go ahead and sew the rest of the zipper. That is what I like to do. So you can see now I'm now sewing the rest of the zipper because I've checked and the lines of the band actually aligns. The lines of the band aligns. Wow. So once that is done, I'm just going to turn it to the right side, and then this is what your zipper looks like. And then I'm just going to bring the zipper down and cut out the excess so that I can fold it neatly and it doesn't show. So I'm just cutting that and throwing that away. And now I'm going to take the band, I'm going to cut out that excess that I left earlier because there's no need for it now. Then I'm folding the zipper down and folding it again to the right side. So I folded it down and then to the right, or to the left in this case, and I'm just tacking that so it's secure, folding the zipper down and then to the right. So it depends on what side of the zip you're trying to tack down. So I'm just tacking that and cutting out the thread, and yeah, that's it basically for the zipper. We're not done yet. So this skirt has a slit in front. Now if you want to make your skirts, if you want to put a slit at the back, all you have to do is simply open the back allowance at the back and then put your slit there. But in this case, I've gone ahead to cut open the slit in front, and then all I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a bias. This is what I call a bias. I'll use a bias and just hem that slit all the way around, so from the slits, and then I'm also going to use the bias to hem the bottom of the skirt. So like normal, right side facing, so the right side of the bias is facing the right side of the skirt, and then I'm just going to sew on. When you look at the bias, it has two fold lines, so I'm going to sew on the right fold line. Does that make sense, guys? I really hope it does. I'm sewing on the right fold line, and then I just try to make sure that I follow that line, because they've done half of the job for you by creating those lines that you can actually visibly see, so you know that that's where you're supposed to sew. So sewing that all the way around through the slits, from the start to the bottom, through the slits, and yeah. And now I'm going to turn the fabric to the wrong side and then fold the bias to the back. So the right side of the bias is now visible at the back of the skirt. That way the front of the skirt has just a line. The bias is not visible at the right side of the skirt. So as you can see, I'm folding the bias down and sewing it, folding it and sewing it. That's as simple and as easy as it gets. So I'm just going to do that all the way, just to make sure that yeah, and that's it. Look at how neat the skirt looks. Yeah, beautiful. And you can see the bias showing at the back, at the wrong side of the skirt. So I went ahead and I put a cute bow. Thanks for watching, guys.